I love the way Gary says, hey, bud.
It is the best.
Hey, bud. I went to boot camp as soon as I graduated high
hungry.
school. This was my dream.
Oh,
I
yeah.
was 15 years old when I decided I wanted to be a SEAL.
Gunshot wound to the head, all over your body, elbow, everything, and you walked to the helicopter.
Yep.
How was that first conversation with her?
Well, I couldn't talk, so it was only communicating by writing. In Germany, a teammate flew home with me. He escorted me home, and he said, hey, do you want to call your wife? And I said, yeah, but obviously I can write, and you can tell her what to say.
He's your interpreter.
And so he calls her, and
Yeah.
I wrote down, and I held it up to him, and he was like, I'm not saying that.
Stop.
And it said, hey, babe, I got all shot up, but my wang's okay.
Stop. Get out of here.
And we signed it, the management.
I love that.
Hello and welcome to GSF Podcast, sponsored by the Gary Sinise Foundation's Education and Outreach Initiative, aiming to educate the public on the importance of serving America's veterans, first responders, and their families.
Welcome to the Gary Sinise Foundation podcast. I'm your host, Cristin, and today I am joined here by retired United States Navy SEAL, Jason Redman. Jason has overcome tremendous adversity after being severely wounded in combat. His resilience, now channeled into helping others face and overcome their own life's hardships, is truly an inspiration. Today you'll find Jason leading the way with a relentless warrior spirit and a call to leadership and perseverance. He is a New York Times bestselling author, a motivational speaker, and of course, a Gary Sinise Foundation ambassador. Welcome, Jason.
Cristin, what's up? Thank you for having me.
I'm so grateful for you to be here. We've been so excited for this one, so thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. So, okay, I want to just get right into it. You are an incredible speaker and coach, and you're very open. You're quick to being open about your own challenging journey. And I've heard you talk about it, about get off the X. Can you share about that?
Yeah, so getting off the X, a military term, oftentimes in special operations for years, we can look at it from two ways. Number one, we look at it from, it was our job to place the enemy on the X. We wanted to find, fix, and finish the enemy, and we through a myriad of different ways. The flip side of that coin, the X is the point of attack. It's the ambush point, it's the attack point. I found out what it feels like to be on the receiving end of that the night I was wounded. And as I recovered and navigated through that and started working with wounded warriors, I started to realize, like, everybody gets stuck on the X in life. It may not be the bullets and bombs of battle, but every single person gets hit by the bullets and bombs of life.
Yeah.
And what I often say is, you've been blown up by rejection and failure. You've been shot up by injury, illness, or loss. You've walked through the minefields of depression and despair, and that's being on the X. And no different than in a gunfight or an attack or an ambush, we are so overwhelmed in those moments. It's so hard to drive forward because of the pain, because of the discomfort, because of the grief, because of the depression. so many people get stuck on the X, no different than an actual gunfight. And the idea became, and we learned in special operations, if you want to survive, you have to get off the X as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
And it's what I teach now. Like, if you want to be successful in this life, I think the difference between people who are highly successful, Gary's been on the X a lot of it in his life. I mean, he's an amazing example. The things that he's been through in his life, with his wife, obviously with Mac, all these things, these are major life ambush moments where you're on the X, and it's easy for people to lay down and feel sorry for themselves and say, this isn't fair. I want back the world before this happened.
Yeah.
You know, we should be celebrating this birthday or anniversary, or, you know, this never should have, whatever it is. And obviously Gary has done very well getting off the X, and that is the idea behind all of that. How do I help other people get off the X, drive forward, and find success?
The wisdom that you just dropped of just how you paralleled combat, you know, these things that you've experienced to just everyday people. And I feel like often people will say, you know, well, my thing's not as bad as somebody else's.
But you want to hear an interesting thing?
Yes.
I've often said this, and I know this is true. In a life ambush, in a major life crisis, so let's take you just found out you were diagnosed with cancer.
Yep.
Like the doctor said, Cristin, I've got bad news. You've got cancer, stage 4, and we're gonna figure this out. The shock and the dread and the fear and the unknown and uncertainty that impacts us in those moments is monumental. Your body suddenly went into fight or flight mode.
Absolutely.
Your heart is racing, you're breathing heavy, you're breaking into a sweat, your adrenaline level spiked, your cortisol is high, all these things. If I was to take you in that moment and we had you connected to medical devices that measured all that, and you had me connected to medical devices in the middle of a firefight, we'd be almost identical. Because the human body doesn't say, oh, I'm in a gunfight.
Right.
The human body only says, oh my God, I am in a crisis. And it reacts physiologically. So they're the same. I hate to tell you, if you're in a life ambush, it's no different than that's why the bullets and bombs of life, they really are the same as the bullets and bombs of battle.
That is incredible. It makes sense. It makes sense. Your body doesn't know what's happening exactly around you, just it's reacting to it.
That's right.
Okay, I want to go back to the beginning in a way for you. I could talk about that all day long. Okay, what drew you to the Navy?
The SEAL teams. That was it.
It was the SEAL teams.
That's it. I didn't want to be in
best of the
I didn't
best.
want to be in the Navy. I didn't want to be on ships. No offense to my Navy peeps out there. I wanted to be a war fighter. I wanted to be a
It was
warrior.
the best of the best. Yeah.
And that's 100%. So, which really drove me, because if you don't make it through SEAL training, you're going to ride on a
You're
ship.
going to.
During BUDS, the instructors frequently in San Diego, in the morning, you'd be getting your butt kicked, and out on the horizon, there'd be a Navy ship leaving San Diego. And the instructors
swim.
they would say, gents, if any of you want to quit, there's your future right out there. Swear to God.
Just look along the horizon. If you swim fast enough, you could
that's
go
all
right
you have
there.
to do.
What is, okay, what's BUDS? What is this?
BUD stands for Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL Training. So that is the training. Anyone whoever becomes a SEAL has gone through that training.
Okay.
Incredibly difficult, 80% attrition rate.
80%.
80% do not make it through training. My class started with 148 and we graduated 19 originals.
19 survived that.
And the classes today are even bigger. The average class today is starting with around 200, and we're still bringing it down to about 30, maybe 40 graduates at most.
When Gary says, hey, bud, do you have like flashbacks?
I love the way Gary says, hey, bud.
This is the best.
Hey, bud.
Hey, bud.
Yeah, so good. No, I don't have flashbacks.
Is there a moment where your heart has a little...
I tell you, the biggest flashback, if I think about someone on a megaphone, is what brings flashbacks.
Really?
And there were guys who were masters of the megaphone.
They knew.
Oh, they were so good. And they'd be in the truck following you on the different evolutions, or you'd be out in the ocean.
Yeah.
And you'd hear them on the megaphone. Hey, Sally, I'm watching you. I know you're not rowing fast enough. You better get in here and I'm going to make you do 10,000 push-ups. But it was always funny. So it was almost like, oh my God, they saw me. Like you're suddenly in the spotlight and like, oh God, they've seen me and the megaphone's on me. So yeah, anytime I hear a megaphone, it takes me back to like,
I hear there's a certain tone in a voice that is very drill instructor-like, and it makes me clench. I'm just like, oh, okay. Yeah. And then I have to realize, you're not in boot camp, like you're fine, you're not there, it's okay. Okay, so what was the hardest part of Navy SEAL training?
For me, during Hell Week, Hell Week is the hardest part of training.
What is Hell Week?
Yeah, Hell Week is, but it is probably considered across all militaries, even globally, probably one of the toughest blocks of training. It is the big crucible to make it through SEAL training. 80% of the class will quit during Hell Week.
And when is Hell Week?
When I went through it was the 6th week of training. Okay. I think today it may be the 4th week of training. They moved it back a little bit. But it starts on Sunday and it goes typically sometime on Friday. You don't know when it's going to start and you don't know when it will end. But you will go the entire week. At most, you will get about 3 hours of sleep. You are wet, coated in sand. If you are moving anywhere, you're carrying a 250 to 300 pound boat on top of your head everywhere you go. You will do a lot of, we called it surf torture when I went through. Apparently that's incorrect now. It's called immersion therapy.
Immersion.
I mean, come on, give me a break. It's surf torture, people. We're putting you in water and we're freezing you until you're almost hypothermic. Yeah.
Oh my.
And so these are all parts of it. By the time, and you're constantly moving. Constantly, obviously, you're not sleeping, so it's constant, very physical, demanding evolutions, or you're in the water freezing to death until you're almost hypothermic. They pull you out, doctors and medical staff check you, and as long as you're not hypothermic, they put you right back in the water. They have tables, it's all it's very well managed and regulated. But your body doesn't know that. Your body thinks, oh my God, I'm dying.
Oh yeah.
And you have to push through that. You have to push through the pain and discomfort. And during Hell Week, there is a bell in SEAL training. It hangs in the courtyard normally throughout all of training, but during Hell Week, it's actually, they put it on the back of a truck and it's always right next to you. It follows you around everywhere you go.
Just
so it's like super convenient. Yeah, like, come on, man, like, just ring the bell.
Just one.
Yeah, and they taunt you with it. I will never forget the hardest evolution for me. I didn't think about quitting this night, but it was the very tough evolution. It was called Steel Piers. And we were down on these floating docks below the pier, and the pier was up top, and they had the vans parked up there. And every time, and the largest attrition from our class happened during this evolution. It was about a 4-hour evolution. You were laying on top of these steel piers. You had nothing on but these little tiny shorts, and they were spraying you with a hose, and you would have to jump in the water, and your clothes would get thrown in the water and you have to dive down and find them. And it's just a lot of chaos and freezing on a metal deck. And as students would quit, they would get a blanket and a cup of coffee, and you could see them sitting up in the van with the heat on as they're drinking their coffee, looking down at us. And the instructors would be like, gents, all you have to do, if you want to be warm, you can go sit in that van. We got a hot cup of coffee and a blanket waiting for you. So, I mean, a lot of mind games. Thankfully, I didn't give in there. My hardest part, Thursday night was my toughest night. And the reason,
close.
Yeah, and the reason being is beware of unrealistic expectations. I had a friend that had gone through before me, and he told me, hey, if you can make it to Wednesday morning, it gets easier. So I grabbed onto that. That was like a lifeline. Like, hey, man, all I got to do is make it a Wednesday morning. It's all downhill.
Yep.
And that's sort of true. What you don't realize is you're so broken by Wednesday morning, mentally, physically, that things do slow down. But after you've been awake for, over 100 hours at this point, you're starting to hallucinate.
Oh, yeah.
Like by the last couple of days of training, all of us are hallucinating. And the instructors are just trying to guide you. You're still doing things, but things have slowed down, but you don't realize it. Like in your mind, you still think things are going 100. Like I've now gone out and watched Hell Week, and you get to the end, and it's funny. In your mind, you're like chariots of fire, like dun, 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 Yeah. And then the reality is, if someone's walking and you look like this, Yeah. So Thursday night,
gosh.
my boat crew was losing a whole bunch of races. We were at the pool, and we kept being punished. And it pays to be a winner.
So it just
if you
gets
win,
worse
you get
and
a
worse.
break. And we just kept getting punished. And I remember finally standing on top of the 10-meter dive platform. It was the temperature had dropped. I went through Hell Week in March of 1995, and the wind is howling across the bay that night. It's like 48 degrees. And I remember standing up there just shaking so hard I thought my bones were going to snap.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked down and the bell was on the truck, and I was like, I'm going to go ring that bell. I'm done. And thankfully I caught myself, and a buddy was like, don't do it, man. And I didn't. I hung in there and thankfully made it through and graduated. But it was the only time that I was like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore.
What is it that makes you not do that? Like, what is the one thing that would, like, what do you think it is that gets you through Hell Week?
You've got it. Well, I think it's anything in life too. The correlations are the same.
Exactly.
I mean, in SEAL training, and what I realized is if I quit, it ends this journey. Like I came to be a SEAL. And if you quit, you don't earn it. It's done. Your journey's done. And so I often tell people, like, if you have a big goal or a dream, it will be hard. You are going to have moments when you are in pain, when you are struggling, when you are uncomfortable, when you're questioning yourself, when you're doubting yourself. And the difference is never quit in a moment of discomfort or pain. Whether it's in life or in SEAL training, I try and tell the young candidates this. Because maybe you'll figure out, like, this isn't the right path for me, and that's okay. Get to the end of the evolution. Get out of the pain and discomfort where your brain can work and really start to sort through.
Clarity.
Because the strongest human drive is to alleviate pain and discomfort. It is the strongest thing we have as humans. We'll do almost anything to reduce extreme pain and discomfort.
Yeah.
So when you're in those moments, it's very easy to become mentally weak and say, I don't want to do this anymore. And then we regret it afterwards. So I tell guys, hey man, get to the end of the evolution. If at the end of the evolution, when you're done and it's subsided, you still want to quit, then by all means, make sure you know that you've made that decision. It's not right for you, but never do it in the moment. Life's like that too. How often do all of us, like, I can't do this anymore.
I'm out.
Yeah. Don't do it in the moment. Reduce some of the pressure and stress, then make that decision.
I love this is wisdom. So what was harder, the physical or the mental?
Mental, 100%.
Really, mental, 100%.
Yeah. I tell everybody has a little bit of a Navy SEAL that lives inside them. That's the I'm telling
Just
you,
like
it's
in
true.
a cage.
For those of you out there, my Army brethren, SOF, Marines, you have a MARSOC guy, or you have a Ranger, you have a Green Beret, whatever it is. You have a soft warrior. Every human has a soft warrior that lives inside them. What's interesting is for some people, it gets released over time. They start to build it over time because they've done some things that make them tougher.
Yeah.
And all of us have the ability to do so. What SEAL training teaches you is you physically, your body can do 10 times more than what your mind is telling you. Your mind is telling you, I can't go any further.
Right.
And it doesn't mean you can run faster or lift more weight or anything like that, but you can endure more pain and discomfort so much further. It is very difficult to push yourself physically to death. Even though you would think, oh my God, I'm going to die doing this.
Like, under the circumstances. I mean, cold, wet, all of it, no sleep.
Yeah. So in life, I tell people, hey man, lean into the pain and discomfort, do the hard things, whether it's working out. Sometimes in the civilian world, it's hard to duplicate some of those things. Sometimes people have to have some catastrophic thing happen to them that unleashes their Navy SEAL that lives inside them. But we've seen them. You've seen these amazing, normal people, moms who something crazy happens and they step in and they save their kid, or they create their own business after, they lost a husband, and they, so there's all kinds of amazing things that everybody has a little bit inside them. Some people are too afraid to let it out.
Yeah. There's a little bit of fear, like what would that mean? And what would that then change? And what does that then awaken?
What would people say?
Ooh. Okay, so once or if you survive Hell Week, how long till you're a Navy SEAL?
Oh, at least, I mean, Hell Week's at the very beginning. You have at a minimum.
So it's just cleaning out the herd. It's like,
and
we're done.
I mean, that's the reality. It is actually, Hell Week is designed to eliminate individuals who don't have the mental fortitude to endure the hardship of SEAL training and actual real world operations.
So it's opposite of boot camp, because boot camp you have crucible at the very end.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if you make that, then you're in, you know, but that's interesting. They put it right in the front.
Yeah. Yeah, they want to know you have the mental fortitude.
Yeah.
And now we can train you. And we start doing, it doesn't get easier.
Yeah.
The evolutions get harder, but it starts getting more combat dive training, explosives,
That's
tactics.
more.
Yeah. Although still with lots of physical hardship.
Yeah.
And the cold is always there. So the cold is your friend in
Just
SEAL
to
training.
embrace you.
Yeah. Cold and sand. You're
It's not like
always
it's
going to have them.
all downhill from there, essentially.
If you make it through Hell Week, you have probably I think I was talking to somebody about a 70% chance of graduating. 60 to 70. If you can make it through Hell Week, you're the last big crucible that takes guys out is an evolution called pool competency. It's the last evolution of dive training. And really it should be called getting your ass kicked underwater. Is what it really means.
Clearly.
Yeah, you're wearing all your gear. 2 instructors come down and they're just beating you and ripping gear off, and they're tying knots in your hoses. And there's a very systematic sequence that you have to go through to fix your gear. You can't go to the surface. If you go to the surface, you fail.
Wait, you're underwater?
Yeah, you're underwater.
Cool.
You're at about 15 feet. And if you skip a step or do a step wrong out of sequence, you fail. So it's really hard. You have 4 tries. I failed the first 3, and that's very common. I don't know many SEALs. I mean, guys, if you're out, if you ever listen to this, I guarantee there's a few that are like, I got it in my first try. My team leader got it in his first try.
Did he?
Yeah, he was at a talk with me last weekend.
Is he like
in
a
DC,
fish?
And he was like, I got it in my first try. I was like, no one likes you. No, I love that guy. I owe my life to him. But it took me 3 tries. I got it on the 4th try. That weeds a lot of people out. That is. So if you make it through that, you now are probably 90% chance of graduating.
Dang. Okay, so let's flash forward. You spent 11 years enlisted as a Navy SEAL and then 10 years as a SEAL officer leading combat operations. Can you talk about the difference?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would caveat that. I would say probably 5 years leading as an officer because I was wounded in my 5th year. My last 5 years of the military were a lot of recovery, and I was no longer operational. So, I mean, yes, I was still in leadership position, but it wasn't combat leadership. The difference, our enlisted members in the military are absolutely amazing. They are some of the most technically, tactically proficient individuals on the planet. And the days of, I think there's some people that think, if you were in the military, I know this for a fact. I had somebody after I was wounded, and they saw my sign on the door. It was a very left-leaning affiliation that said, well, the reason, he joined the military because he doesn't have the ability to do anything else. That kind of mindset. And I think sometimes people have thought about that with enlisted members, but it is amazing the level of training and smarts that an individual has to have. And oftentimes they're very technically proficient in a very specific area, whether that's a rifleman who knows everything about his weapon and he understands, small unit tactics, or it's a communicator, or it's our nuclear guys, whatever it is. In the SEAL teams, the guys get very proficient, usually in certain areas. So maybe they are an expert as a sniper and weapons and ordnance and all that. For me, when I was an enlisted guy, I became really good as a communicator. I knew all about radios.
Shocking.
Yeah, I know, go figure. All about radios, and that was my focus.
Yeah.
When I became an officer, it became different. You were as an enlisted, you were inward focused on the gear, the tactics, the equipment. As an officer, you're outward focused. Like coordinating with the external elements, making sure the team has all the things they need to go execute missions, making sure we've met all the requirements, that we've done all the things that we're proficient. If things go wrong, how do we manage these things? How are we coordinating across all these different
It's like strategy.
spectrums? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Do you miss the adrenaline of it?
Oh,
Do you?
yeah, of course.
What kind of question is that?
The adrenaline, yes. What I miss the most is the camaraderie. I miss the guys and
What's that like?
shenanigans. And America, you need to lighten up. Because I tell you what, in the military, and I know you can appreciate this, and the SEAL teams are probably, I mean, special operations, we take everything to the extreme. And in the SEAL teams, nothing was off limits.
Yes, you do.
Yeah. Nothing was off limits. Race, creed, color, gender, religion, I don't care what it is, we would make fun of it. And if it bothered you, they would make fun of it even more. Like, oh, does that bother you? Poke, 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 poke.
And we
then
found
you either
the
got hard,
button.
either you got hard and finally it didn't bother you anymore, or they would just pour it on even more. But it was so funny all the time. And you had guys who in the most literally life-threatening scenarios. I mean, like we could be getting shot at and guys would be cracking one-liners and jokes. And you'd be like, did you really just say that? You know, it's like, bang, 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 bang. Let me stand behind this wall so I don't get shot. But that was hilarious.
Pause.
Yeah,
We need to notate the line you just dropped.
And that's what I miss the most. And it just, I wish America could lighten up. Sometimes people are funny. Comedians are funny. They're not, you know, everybody's like, oh my God, they're making fun of me. Well, so what? Lighten up. I mean, you know, you can make fun of me. I'm okay with it. You can make fun of, you know, short white dudes who got scars and, you know, whatever.
We'll all laugh.
Yeah.
Okay, so for most people, when they think of a Navy SEAL, I think they envision the war paint on their face, donned in some sort of scuba gear, and like in some sort of body of water, right? So what is it really like?
So we are America's premier maritime special operations force. It is our job. Everything, we have the ability to do everything from the water. But obviously SEAL is an acronym, sea, air, and land. So we train for everything. And interesting, prior to 9/11, there was kind of this unwritten rule of like, hey, Army took everything inland, and the SEALs, you could have everything from the shoreline 10 miles in. But obviously 9/11 changed that overnight. There was so much work that had to be done. And the gift in that is there was a lot of inter-service rivalry, pretty heavy. And I think a lot of that went away. I mean, that's still there, but now it's much more lighthearted because we all ended up working together. We did missions with Rangers, with Green Berets. There was so much overlap.
And there's like respect.
Yeah, exactly. So we can do anything from any environment, but water is our forte. We are, you know, there is no one better to be able to conduct operations from the water, which is why SEAL training is, it's a very hard environment. To come out of water, to dive in or do anything and still be able to perform despite being cold, coated in sand, you know, all these different saltwater corrodes gear. So being able to manage all this and still be able to execute at a high level is pretty impressive. And the Navy SEAL teams are some of the most proficient Marine Special Operations force in the world.
You touched on this. What was your role in the Navy SEAls?
As an enlisted guy,
You did the communications.
Yeah, I did communications. As an officer, there are a couple of different roles depending on targets. I operated as an assault force commander, so I was in charge of if we were taking down a target that would be usually in charge of the building takedown itself. I also ran as a mobility force commander, so I was in charge of all our mobility assets, planning routes, and setting security around targets and things like that.
Sounds
sexy.
That's a word. One of the words, you know, one of the words on my list. Dang, it sounds intense.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great job. You were with amazing people. So I was 17 years old when I joined the Navy. September 11, 1992, I was still in high school. That is the day I enlisted in the Navy, having no clue what that day held. Still in high school, part of the delayed entry program. I went to boot camp as soon as I graduated high school. Yeah, this was my dream. I was 15 years old when I decided I wanted to be a SEAL. So I grew up in this community. I didn't know anything else. So it wasn't until I left the military and left the SEAL teams that you begin to truly appreciate how amazing the people you work with are.
Yeah.
That, what do you mean the rest of the world's not like this? Not to knock anybody else out there, but the majority of the people in the SEAL teams could do anything. We have guys who are incredible, guys who rocket scientists. We have guys who were high-level, multi-millionaire Wall Street traders who decided after 9/11 to come in the SEAL teams. We've had guys who were chaplains and they had gone through seminary school. We have guys who probably were criminals, but they were very smart and they were great and able to do what they do. I mean, Johnny Kim, if anybody has a chance to look Johnny Kim up, he is one of the most amazing guys. He fought on the battlefield in Iraq with Chris Kyle and Jocko Willink. Saved a guy in a huge gunfight, earned the Silver Star for it. He was a medic. Not long after that, left, went to Harvard, became a doctor from Harvard.
He's just checking all the boxes.
He's an astronaut now. So, I mean, I gotta say, like, Johnny, thanks a lot, man. Like, thanks for making all of us feel like we've never done anything.
We're just, scraping the bottom of the barrel here.
Yeah. Try not to cure cancer while you're flying to space, bro. So, yeah.
Leave something for the rest of us,
I mean,
please.
that's the caliber of people you're with. And you take it for granted. It's pretty amazing. And I miss that. I miss the camaraderie. I miss the level of intense drive.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's driving to be the best version of themselves. And
you're surrounded by the best of the best.
Yeah. So
you deployed numerous times, and then eventually you were deployed to Iraq. And can you talk us through what happened on September 13th, 2007?
I got on the wrong end of a machine gun. Don't do that. That's better to be on the sending end, not the receiving end. So no, we were going after a high-level Al-Qaeda leader, very dangerous individual that we had been hunting most of the deployment, and got word that he was going to be in a specific location. We, to make a long story short, we walked into a very well-executed ambush in front of the building that he happened to be in. The intel was right. Estimate maybe 15 fighters against 6.
Six
and
of
really
you, 15
five SEALs and our interpreter. And so we were outnumbered, we were outgunned, 2 machine guns with very little cover, things that stop bullets. So there was a large kind of tractor tire behind us, and there was one tree. And one of our guys, DJ, fell behind the tree. The rest of the guys fell behind the tire. Multiple guys got shot right in the first few minutes, including myself. I was shot across the body armor and took rounds in the elbow. Was still out front trying to lay down fire for the guys when I got shot some more off the helmet, left night vision tube shot off, my weapon off my side plate. Decided I needed to move. This is a very bad place to be, and tried to move back to the tire where the guys were, and I caught a round in the face. So it hit me right in front of the ear, traveled through my face, and kind of blew out the right side of my face and knocked me out. So came to and was pinned down out front about 15 yards in front of the guys, and the enemy was in between, and just this very intense gunfight was happening directly over me. So totally pinned down.
Were you unconscious or conscious at
I was
that
unconscious for the first 5 to 10 minutes, we estimate. The whole thing would last 40 minutes. So I was shot probably within the first 5 minutes, unconscious for at least 5 to 10, and then another at least 15 to 20 minutes before.
laying there while it's all happening?
Yeah, and kind of a lot of interesting moments. I was totally out of the fight. There was nothing I could do. I had to trust my guys to win the fight. You think about many things when you're facing death.
Yeah, what's going through your mind?
Initially, I was kind of angry. I was angry that we had gotten into this situation, that I had allowed us to get into this situation. I was angry that I was going to die here, and that the enemy would have the satisfaction in having killed me. Because for them, killing a special operations member has, high propaganda value. And then I, really started thinking about things that were more important, which was my wife and kids, and how I wasn't going to go home and see them again. And I kind of resigned myself, like, hey man, this is it. This is where you're going out. And I don't know, that once again kind of made me angry, and I called out to God. And I grew up in the church. I think I had allowed my faith to, I put my faith in the closet, I'll just say. I've often said I was a closet Christian for many years in the military, and that night I called out to God and I said, I need your strength to go home. And like that, I had power. And the gunfight continued until finally we called the closest fire. My team leader called the closest fire mission ever executed in the Iraq War. We literally called rounds directly on our position.
On your position where you're laying there, and you could hear it.
Oh yeah, you could hear it and feel it when it came in. The AC-130 gunship, amazing platform. Big shout out to our Air Force Special Operations brethren. The gunship has probably saved more lives on the battlefield than any other. On many nights it saved us, but on that night, and we were so close. We were what's called extreme danger close, meaning the probability of us being killed by our own rounds was exponential. As a matter of fact, the gunship turned it down twice the first 2 times and said, no, we will kill you guys. And finally, my team leader said, if you don't bring this in, there will be no one left. We're outnumbered, we're outgunned, guys are bleeding out. And finally, they relented, and they brought in that fire mission. And yeah, it impacted right in front of me, blew up over me, and miraculously, none of us were fragged. And
None of you were?
None of us. None of us. But it took out the enemy. We were able to bring in the medevac. And I went from not being able to move a muscle in those final minutes before I called out to God to my team leader helped me to my feet, and I walked, 50, 75 yards to the helicopter.
You walked. Gunshot wound to the head, all over your body, elbow, everything, and you walked to the helicopter.
Yep. I have a lot of very visual. It's interesting what your brain remembers. One of the memories that's incredibly vivid is walking, and I had my head down, and I was walking to the helicopter, and I could just see the blood pouring out onto my gear. My team leader got a tourniquet on my arm. He ran forward under fire, got me, pulled me back, saved my life. I owe my life to him. He's out in the public eye now, so Jay, I can say your name. Bro, I love you, man. And my team saved my life. The medic who had also been shot instructed them on, hey, we need to pack his face. This is what we need to do. So yeah, I owe my life to my guys. I owe my life to the gunship. And God, gave me a second chance. I mean, doctors said I shouldn't have survived. I mean, I needed 8 blood transfusions over the 96 hours I flew home. Life-saving surgery in Baghdad, more surgery in Baghdad, more surgery in Landstuhl, and then got to Bethesda.
And then what do you remember?
I remember a lot. I mean, that we get super deep into all of that. I mean, that's obviously a lot of that I wrote down. I'm a big writer. I wrote a lot, and a lot of that turned into, my first book, that journey. But I guess there's a lot of things. Obviously, Erica is a big part of that, and that was such a defining moment. I'll say 2 things. I'll tell these quick stories. The ICU medevac flight home was really hard for me. I was really struggling to breathe. I had all this facial damage. I'm sure there was massive swelling, and they had trached me. And for anybody that's ever had a trach, it's a nasty, it gets clogged with mucus and just, and I was really struggling to breathe throughout the entire flight. I kept feeling like I was going to suffocate. Yeah. So it was a very distressed flight all the way home. The other thing, I was terrified on the way home of what my wife and kids would think. I felt like a monster flying home, and I was afraid. I won't lie, I was afraid on how they would react to my injuries. And you say all those words, till death do us part, and sickness and health, but you don't know until you're placed into these situations. And I had young kids. My kids were. My son was 7. My middle daughter was 5, and my youngest was 2. And we had babies, and. I didn't know. What was my wife going to say? Was she going to say I didn't sign up for this? So I was wrestling with that, and then I will never forget, they offloaded me all these wires and cables and breathing tube and all of this, and loaded me on this blue bus that the military uses to transport wounded. And I remember driving on the roads in Maryland. I would assume we landed in Dover. That would be my thought. And it was so surreal to go from the combat zone where only 5 days earlier, I had been in the desert in one of the most dangerous places on earth at that time. And suddenly I was home, and I was on this beautiful, pristine, it's kind of weird, highway. And I was looking at the people around me in their cars. And I was like, you have no idea. You're just driving along. You have no idea that there's a war going on and there are people being killed. And so it was a surreal moment. So I'm wrestling with this, I'm wrestling with that. They get me to the hospital, and they get me into the ICU, and my wife was there. They hadn't connected us yet. They got me into the room, and the nurse is like, hey, your wife is outside the room. And I was like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready for her. And so I stalled. And finally, the nurse is like, your wife is outside the room. We really need to let her in. She's ready to kick down the door. Yeah. And I'm like,
she's going to come in that room one way or another.
I'm not ready. And and I was so afraid, and I was so afraid how she would react. I was so afraid she would recoil. She would be shocked or disgusted or whatever, or God forbid, maybe even turn around and walk out. I didn't know. We create all these.
Your imagination.
I call it conspiracy theories in your own mind, and they were running wild. And man, my wife, I call her the long-haired admiral now, because she walked in that room like she owned it, and came straight up to me. I had all these tubes and breathing tube, and she just pushed all that aside and kissed me on the lips and said, "Hey, we're gonna be okay." And it was such a powerful moment for me, because I really needed that. I think in life, when you get hit by these major life ambushes, you're struggling, you're doubting, how am I going to get through this? Yeah. And it's so amazing to have somebody on your side. No different than overseas, you had this team. I trusted my team was going to win that gunfight. I knew I couldn't do it on my own. And in that moment, I had my most important teammate there who was like, we're going to get through this.
Oh. How was that first conversation with her?
Well, I couldn't talk, so it was only communicating by writing. And it wasn't our first conversation. What's funny, in Germany, a teammate flew home with me. He escorted me home. And we were in Germany in between some of the surgeries, and he said, hey, do you want to call your wife? And I said, yeah, but obviously I can write, and you can tell her what to say.
He's your interpreter.
And so he calls her, and I wrote down, and I held it up to him, and he was like, I'm not saying that.
Stop.
And I was like, come on, man, you gotta read it to her. And it said, hey, babe, I got all shot up, but my wang's okay.
Stop. Get out of here.
Swear to God, that was the first thing I wrote her.
He's reading it to her.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it was funny, and I wanted to lighten the mood.
Yes.
And I mean, it is a big deal.
You're still there, though,
So,
it's you.
And for her, it was a huge moment, because she wasn't sure, what my mental state was. She had been told, hey, your husband's been shot in the face. She didn't even tell the kids in the beginning, because she was afraid. She was processing that. So she just said, hey, daddy got shot in the arm. He's coming home early. So yeah, it was.
She just knew.
It was like a powerful moment and funny.
My Jason's there. She's like, there's no question.
Yeah. So.
Oh, how did that first week in the hospital challenge your overcomer mindset?
I would say it was kind of developing, because in the beginning, for the first week, I won't lie, I kind of struggled. I had a lot of doubts and fears and a lot of pain, and I was having multiple surgeries. Probably the other day I was having, in the beginning, war wounds are very dirty. The first thing they have to do is stabilize you, and then they start cleaning everything which is a lot of very painful because they're going deep into the wounds to flush, irrigate, open, try and understand how much damage is there, where a nerve's cut, where a blood vessel's cut.
And they didn't put you in a coma, like a medically induced coma?
No, they only put me in a medically induced coma in December for a couple of days when they did the initial facial reconstruction. They removed bone from my leg, and there was a lot of microvascular work. So they put me over Christmas for, December 2007. No, I was thankful. The doctor, Ed Rodriguez, huge shout out. If any of you saw the Super Bowl, there was a commercial with doctors right at the very beginning. And the doctors are running plays, and the ref comes out and says, "You guys need to stick to medicine. Stop trying to play football," or something like that. It was a commercial for NYU Langone, one of the most premier medical facilities in the country. Well, the very first doctor was my facial reconstruction doctor,
Oh,
Ed
I
Rodriguez.
love that.
So big
Good for
shout out
him.
to him. He was recognized at that time, and today he is probably the premier facial reconstruction doctor in the world. And back then he was this rising rock star in that space. And I got referred to him, and his calendar was totally booked out for months, for a long time. And we went and met him in Baltimore. At that time, he was at Johns Hopkins and Baltimore Shock Trauma. And we went and met him in November, and I'm this mess. And man, he was like, "Man, I love the military." He's like, "I'm gonna figure out a time." So he operated me on Christmas Eve. Big Ed, thank you, brother.
What a saint.
Yeah.
What a gem that man is.
So
He made it work.
yeah, which enabled us to, and that was my mindset.
Yeah.
Once I got underway, I kind of looked at it. So getting past the first doubt of like, how do I do this? There was a point, just to touch on this very quickly. A lot of people don't realize I failed as a young leader. That's a large part of my book, The Trident. I messed up as a young leader. I got arrogant. I lost my way for a bit. And I had to reinvent myself. And a lot of things that I speak on in leadership now to companies and individuals and teams was really built out of that, how I had to reinvent myself. And I think self-leadership is the most critical thing you can have. If you can learn to effectively lead yourself, to build structure and discipline and goal setting and how we lead ourselves, it's the most critical principle. And that's what I had to do. I had to go back to those roots. And fast forward to these injuries. I mean, I do believe God doesn't give you anything. I think God puts things into your life that help you. And we don't understand why, and it's super painful often when we go through it, and we're like, "God, why would you do this to me?" But later, and I tell people, an overcome mindset is built on the hardship you go through in the past, and you don't know what it's setting you up for, but something in the future you will look back. So in that hospital, I look back and I was like, man, that leadership failure and all the hardship I went through, it prepared you for this moment. And I said, this is no different. You got to lead yourself through this. And I likened it to medical buds.
Yeah.
Like you just got to get through every evolution. Every evolution is a surgery, and there's going to be rehab, and you're going to have to go through this, and how quickly we can do it. And the doctors kind of laughed at me because I would be in the PACU, like coming out of surgery, and I'd be like, "All right, when do we schedule the next one? Let's get it on the calendar." So
You just became, it's like methodical, you knew.
I had a path. I had a goal. I need to get put back together. I wanted to be operational still. That was a separate journey, but yeah, that was my goal.
Can you tell our listeners about the sign on the door?
The sign came about probably sometime in the first week, maybe into, maybe 7 or 8 days. And it was over. I had crossed the threshold of feeling sorry for myself and the doubt and, second guessing. I should have moved left or right or whatever it was. And I just accepted, hey man, stop. You did things based on your tactics. You did things right. And unfortunately, this happened, and you can't change the past. All you can do is shape the future. So I was kind of coming out of this fog and really starting to drive forward. And the final tipping point for me was there was some people that had come into the room, and they were treating me like I would never recover, and
Like felt sorry.
they were treating me like a victim. And don't ever let anyone treat you like you're a victim. And it was this spark when they left I wrote my wife, she came back into the room, and I said, you know what? No one's ever, I said, I will never feel sorry for myself again, and no one's ever going to come in here and feel sorry for me. And that became the sign. I wrote it out. It was a single stream of consciousness right in that moment. It said, attention to all who enter here. If you're coming in this room with sadness or sorrow, don't bother. The wounds I received, I got in a job that I love, doing it for people that I love, defending the freedom of a country I deeply love. I will make a full recovery. What is full? That's the absolute utmost physically. I have the ability to recover. Then I'm going to push that about 20% further through sheer mental tenacity. This room you're about to enter is a room of fun, optimism, and intense rapid regrowth. And if you're not prepared for that, go elsewhere. And we signed it, the management.
I love that. Just like clear.
Yeah.
If you don't have this, I love how you say, go elsewhere.
That's right. And that sign became an anchor for me, and it ended up, I had no idea what it would do. To date, it has motivated millions and millions of
anchor
people.
For a lot of people.
Yeah, and not just for them, for me. I often say to people, what do you want your sign on the door to say? Because for me, it has become a guidepost for me. Don't get me wrong, I have had tough times as I've gone through recovery, as I've launched businesses. I've had other life ambushes since then. And I look at that sign and that's who you are, man. Never lose sight. That's who you are. Let's go. Let's overcome. Drive forward.
A Navy SEAL to your core.
Yeah.
To your core.
You have one too.
Yep.
Everybody in here does.
Everybody.
Yeah.
I love that. How did you meet Gary?
I met Gary. I met him through one of the events originally. I can't remember which one. But Gary's organization was growing. I had retired. I was running my own nonprofit. I think we had crossed paths a few times with that. I'd been to some of the events. I was friends with Mike Schlitz. Love you, Mike Schlitz.
Love him.
And Gary was looking for a new executive director. And someone called me and said, hey, is this something you might be interested in? And I was like, gosh, I don't know. What an honor to work for Gary. And they said, why don't you come out and spend some time with us? We're doing these different trips and you can spend some more time with Gary. So I think I flew to Texas originally. Snowball Express was doing some things there and Gary was there. And then we flew, I think we might have gone directly to Snowball initially, and I spent time with Gary, and then we went and did something else, and then we flew back to LA. So I got to spend a lot of time with Gary and got to meet the band and see what they were doing, and I loved it. And if you spend time with Gary, you quickly realize that he is the most genuine human you will ever meet. That whether behind closed doors, when he's tired, it doesn't matter. He is just the most down-to-earth, incredible human. And I definitely learned that with all the time we got to spend together. Kind of a funny story, though.
I'm so ready.
So he's so genuine, and anyone he meets, he will stop and talk to them.
Always.
And so the whole trip, we were behind schedule for everything. And,
no, you don't say.
And finally, we had someplace we had to be. And, I'm just
loves
along
just
with Gary.
Yeah,
and he's so amazing.
It's
But
magic.
one of the big wigs for American Airlines, who was heavily involved in GSF, pulled me aside and he was like, Jay, didn't you learn how to do some of this stuff, like PSD and stuff like that? And I was like, yeah.
Clear the room.
He's like, I need Gary to be on time for this next event. So we were leaving the hotel and I had gone and talked to the security and I'm like, hey, Gary, we're going to go through these back passageways and stuff like this. And we went out the back door and Jim was like, oh my God, we're on time. So kind of funny. That was.
You'd filled my role.
Yeah. So, but
Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, it was amazing.
Yeah.
I became friends with him then, and I had so much admiration for him.
Yeah.
And I was ready to say yes. I was ready to give up our nonprofit because that was when I was going to have to figure out what to do with that. But my kids were still, They were still 7, 8 years from then. So my son would have been like 14, 15. So they were still, we were in the...
Still young.
And they were a big decision point. And I flew out to LA and went to the office, met everybody. And then I drove around LA and I looked at neighborhoods and where we could live. After I did that, I came back to Gary and I said, Gary, man, I can't move my kids out here. I'm sorry.
Oh,
And that's how I became an ambassador.
look at that.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And he's like, don't worry, you'll still be here.
Yeah.
We've got a place for you.
Yep.
As you know, this podcast is in honor of Mac, who we lost in January of 2024. And he loved this mission and was always finding ways to continue to support it, even if he couldn't do it physically. So much so that even at the end of his life, he was working on Resurrection and Revival Part 1. And his request to his dad was that any sales, which he wasn't thinking there was going to be that many, which is just incredible, but any sales that he made from the record would go to this mission. So I ask you, why is the mission of the Gary Sinise Foundation so important to you?
Being a veteran's hard. I mean, you choose to basically go serve in a job that takes you away from your family. You do hard things. You're frequently cold, wet, searing hot, eating crap food, oftentimes afraid for your life. Injuries are common. You sacrifice years of earning potential to give it back to people oftentimes who have no idea you're doing it.
Yep. You said in the vehicle and when you were coming back, you're just looking around and like, nobody knows.
Yeah. And there are a lot of Americans who appreciate the military and understand the military, but there are equally as many who have no clue, and either they're not aware or they don't care. They take their freedom for granted. And I think many veterans, when they make that transition, especially out of war, it's really hard. And I think that's what Gary saw when he did Forrest Gump. I think he got to play a severely wounded warrior and how much he lost himself in Lieutenant Dan. And I have so many friends who are the same. My team leader for a while, and thank God, he's doing better. But I've lost friends to suicide, and I've lost friends. I had one write me at one point and say, I don't know how to live without a war. He said, I don't know how to find purpose in this life. And I think some people would say, oh, well, you're just a warmonger, and that's not true.
No.
I think it becomes about the guys and gals that you're with, and you have this tremendous high-level purpose. And the civilian world doesn't have that. The civilian world is very convoluted, and it's messy, and it's hard to find your own path. So I don't know. I've tried to figure that out for my own, and at the same time, how do I give back to other people? How to help them navigate to lead themselves to success, to hopefully write their own sign on the door, and these different things that I've tried to help people with, and then also to be involved to raise awareness of this amazing mission and help our veterans. And that's what's been cool about being with you guys, the things I get to do to meet our World War II veterans and to meet our Vietnam veterans, and just to say, hey, welcome home to them, and how teary-eyed they get, when they were ignored by many parts of this country when they came home. So it's been neat. That drives me. I want to help every veteran hopefully become the best version of themselves after the military. And it may not be, everybody's got to navigate that path, but how do we give them the tools to help them to do that?
Yeah. What a mission. You got a servant's heart. Okay. So you've got a book out. You actually have a handful of books out, but your new book you co-wrote with your wife, and it's called Mission Invincible Marriage, which I love. And as a newlywed, I read this and I appreciate you both. Thank you. Thank you. So I just want to ask you, for our listeners, what can readers expect?
Readers can expect a book that hopefully is very relatable to them.
Oh, yeah.
That is the goal. And Eric and I pulled no punches. I mean, we talk about the hard times. We talked about, I struggled with some post-traumatic stress for a few years. And finally it reached a collision point. And thankfully Erica called me out on it in a way that wasn't...
It was beautiful.
She shocked me into, you have got to do something because this is creating a massive impact on our family. And a lot of that had to do with the journey. I shared Erica and I's journey in the first book, and obviously she is in the spotlight with me. She helps me run our business. I call her LHA, the long-haired admiral. Many people have coined that phrase.
I
with
love
her.
it. Yeah.
And they've asked how have you guys done it? Marriages are on the decline in America.
Oh, yeah.
Divorces are rising higher and higher. We're over 51% for divorces in America. Law enforcement, military, and police have some of the highest. So high stress, trauma-filled jobs that I call us the protector community. It's very difficult. The SEAL teams have, yay, winning, one of the highest.
We're at
90%.
That's insane, 90%.
Wounded warriors are equally around 90%. I mean, it's very hard on a family to have a family member severely injured and life-changing injuries.
Yeah.
And that puts tremendous strain, and the mental wounds are even worse. So everybody kept asking us that, and I was thankful to have her as we navigated through this. All the hardest parts of my life, for the most part, she was there with me.
Yeah.
And God intended us to have a mate. In Genesis, he created woman out of man because he said, you need to have a companion. Mm-hmm. And I think he makes us better. The current generation is developing this belief that they don't want to be married, that's not a good thing, and we're having less kids and all these things. And man, I want people to understand, you can have an amazing marriage. You have to work at it.
It is work.
Yeah, so we put all this together into a book that we wanted it to be relatable to the average person.
Oh, yeah.
And we actually got a little bit of pushback from the publishing house in the beginning because they were like, well, you're not doctors, you're not therapists, you're not this, so.
You've experienced.
But we were like, well, we've been through the ringer, I got a PhD in real life, bro. And it was great because finally William Morrow and HarperCollins, I don't know, they got a hold of it and they were like, oh my God, we love this book. And it was built on a foundation of military concepts that everybody can incorporate into their life.
It's for anybody.
Yeah.
It's for everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know this might be a tough one, but top piece of advice for married couples, or in fact, anybody in a relationship. I know.
The top piece of advice would be training and communication.
Training.
Yes. It's interesting that special operations, law enforcement, and fire, we have some of the highest divorce rates, yet we are all focused on this very mission-focused job. In the highest levels of special operations, they're tasked with doing what are called no-fail missions. They are strategic level. You must accomplish the mission. High-level hostage rescue, whatever.
No fail.
Why are you not? So if we have this mindset, why don't we go into it with our marriage that way? And what that needs to happen is shared goals, shared dreams, shared values. All those things need to be locked in. I think oftentimes people choose poorly. I mean, that's a reality.
Yeah.
Can it be fixed? Maybe. If your values are totally different, it's really hard because over time, that separation will only get worse. The old idea of, they'll change.
Yeah.
If it's a deep-seated value-based thing, very rarely does it change. That's a pretty big thing. But then training is the next part. No different in the military. We train all the time.
All the time
the
for
world
everything.
is changing. Guess what? Couples are constantly changing. The phases of our life are changing. So it's critical that we must train. What is training? It's doing things together. It's understanding your spouse. It's understanding their hopes and goals and dreams and supporting them. They're still an individual, but it always goes back to it's we, not me. We talk about that in the book frequently. Communication is the most critical thing. In military operations, communication is the most critical thing. It is what will cause missions to fail the fastest. It's what will cause a marriage to fail the fastest also. If you're not constantly communicating, sharing your hopes, goals, dreams, problems, and learning how to communicate those things. And then the last part is under fire. How do you fight? Because sometimes when we communicate, it gets heated.
Right.
Don't shoot your teammate.
Right.
No blue on blue.
No, no.
Got to have rules of engagement. We talk about that.
I love that. That is something very different about that too, is the training. I was like, well, look at that. And the way you paralleled it. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Jason. You are just a breath of fresh air and just so amazing and deeply inspiring, and I cannot thank you enough for joining us.
Yeah, Chris, honored to be here. Thank you to Gary and Mac and his memory. Yeah.
And as we do with every podcast, Mac will close out the show.
You've been listening to GSF Podcast, the official podcast of the Gary Sinise Foundation. If you'd like to find out more about what the foundation is up to, or if you'd like to make a donation, please visit GarySiniseFoundation.org. Make sure to tune in next time for more interviews, and thanks for joining us.